This is the Misdirected Mark podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
It's quiet.
Too quiet. I don't remember this part of the house misdirected.
Things have been moved around in here. You almost fell over a tripwire. I think we're being hunted.
Pretzel.
Uh-oh. He found us.
I knew we'd never get to this undiscovered.
All right, I found you. Who brought the snacks?
Ah!
And with that, welcome to the 447th episode of the Misdirected Mark podcast. Tonight we're discussing using hunters and collectors as antagonists and allies in your RPGs. Along the way, we'll take your questions, comments, and examples live in the chat room for life on Twitch before jumping into the after show. But first, my name is Jerry.
My name is Phil.
And I am Old Man Logan.
I'm going to go that I was some sort of hunter kind of thing. Is that what we're going for? Okay, good.
It felt like an early, very special Halloween episode of the.
Yes, because I was like, I feel like we're a bit early.
You were trying to hunt down the people with the snacks.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
It's not our best intro, but does the job.
Yes. Anyway, did the job.
So let's do the thing with the thing in the space where we check on everybody's well-being and whatnot. Phil, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm all right. Mentally, I'm fine. I'm like, a solid okay or better. Work's picking up a little bit, which sounds counterintuitive, but honestly, having been kind of in low gear for a little while, it's kind of nice that it's picking up again. Still don't like being in the office, dislike immensely.
Do not
like. Physically, I'm actually pretty good. I loathe my chair at work. After 18 months of my gamer chair, my regular office chair, which is like some steel case chair, right? It's like it's not like a cheap chair. Hate it. And so does my lower back. Not to the point where I'm like, I can't do anything. Just like when I come home from work, I go lay down for like 15 minutes and just let it stretch back out. And it's fine. But like, I'm not comfortable in my work chair, which I know is like real first world problem shit. But I just dislike it. Otherwise, like, I don't know. I think otherwise it's okay. Like our county's COVID numbers are not like wildly out of control. And, I'm still masked up. I'm still, still being careful, but I don't feel overrun, I guess is the way I can say it. Like, but anyway, that's me. I guess I'm okay. What about you, Bob?
My synapses are still firing. I'm tired.
I mean, you are in the fourth quarter of this move.
Yes.
The 2-minute warning.
I have days left, and I've decided that I'm not even going to use days. I'm going to use hours because that's what it feels like. So, it's barreling headlong towards moving day, and I feel like I'm not ready. So, little bits here and there are just like, oh.
No, I get it.
But, otherwise, I'm all right. We'll talk about that more later. After the move. Jerry, what about you?
Pretty good. The sudden change in weather gave me a little bit of a throat tickle. I know you've got one too. So I've been a little raspy, but other than that, I've been pretty good. I've been going to bed a little bit earlier and getting enough sleep. So just kind of winding down. This is going to be with the 3-day weekend coming up. I've got, we're expecting that like Friday and Tuesday, Wednesday next week are going to be very slow days. And I've got like half of my employees either on vacation or out of the office or working special jobs so it's going to be a bizarre weekend when I get back to work, but it'll be fun. So, but I expect it to be kind of slow. So we're kind of winding things down at work and getting prepped for basically like half the company being doing other stuff this weekend. So it'll be kind of fun. But it means that it's a slightly different change and busy at work, but the days go by quickly. So it's not bad. All right.
Cool.
That's it.
All right. I'll roll on into the one thing then. I am now an air fryer evangelist. I know we have talked about air fryers ad nauseum on this show, and I have used like the big round one like once or twice, like it was okay, but I got the Ninja Foodie and I set that thing up at the condo, and I had some pizza. I ordered a breakfast pizza from Just Pizza yesterday, and normally when I go to reheat pizza in the oven, I would take the pizza and put it in the oven and set the oven for like 250, set the timer for like 15 minutes, and like no preheat or anything. Just put it in, set it for 250, set the timer for 15 minutes. When it dings, I pull it out. It's warm, it's edible, and I'm good. Well, I put my pizza in the air fryer, set it for 250, and said, we'll be conservative. We'll set it for 5 minutes just to see, what happens.
Yep.
I pulled that pizza out of that air fryer with a quadruply folded paper towel because I forgot to bring the oven.
Oh no!
The oven things. The
mitts.
Not mitts, but like the just the square pad one. What do they call those? They're not mitts. Anyway, the don't burn your hand shit. I pulled that out of the air fryer after 5 minutes at 250. It was perfect.
Yep.
I was like, holy crap, this reheated nice.
Did you do it on air fry or did you do it like on bake?
On air fry.
Oh, okay.
I put a liner on that baskety, that shallow baskety thing.
Yep.
Put the pizza on that, slipped it in there, said 250, go. And
did I send you the link for the liners that like perfectly fit that basket?
Yeah.
Okay, did you get those? Yeah. They're so good, man. Like it's so nice to just like pull out a parchment paper, slap it in there, and put your stuff on it.
Yeah. Small tangent. While I was searching for those online, I checked the link and I looked at those, and it was like, hey, similar things to this, and they had reusable like silicone ones.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, interesting. That would be more efficient and cost effective than continually buying paper ones that also kill trees. So I went searching and I went down a rabbit hole. And the only thing they don't freaking have is 12 by 12 square. They have every other damn size you want except the 12 by 12 square. It's like, all right, whatever. I'll get the paper. But that's me. Jerry.
Yeah. It's we started our fantasy draft this week, so we're starting to get back into football season again. That was always fun. It was nice to get on with a lot of people that I don't get a chance to chat with very much. I enjoy football. I'm not a rabid football fan, but fantasy football has made watching football a lot more fun because every game matters now, and it's basically turning real football into a board game again. Which I mean, I consider football to be a board game to begin with. You've got two sides, you've got turns. All the pieces move around. Every piece has its own special thing. You've got a bunch of judges who don't seem to know the rules. It's like going to any good tournament. And then you add fantasy draft into that, and now you're watching. Now I've got there's a game on, and it's got a team in it that I don't know anything about, but I've got a player on that team, so now I'm going to watch to see how they do. And so it's one more thing to kind of just make something more interesting. And I'm a multitasker, as Bob and I have talked about many times. When I can't watch a football game. If I'm watching a football game, I've also probably writing something or playing a game or something and or building a Lego set at the same time. So having one more thing to kind of keep my interest going works really well for fantasy football. So, but it's just fun. I don't expect to win a lot, but I expect to have a lot of fun with it and have fun with my friends, and that's really why I do it. So it was just a lot of fun, though.
Just be prepared to go down in flames week 1 against me.
Yeah. And no, I plan on Bob's traditional luck basically saving me on that one.
Especially opening,
Yeah.
what you call opening.
All my star players are going to be, I pulled a hammy in the first quarter. I'll be fine next week. But
somebody's going to blow an Achilles tendon out, something. It'll be gross.
But it's fun. The trash talking is neat, and like I said, it's just it's fun, and it also kind of signifies the beginning of a new season, I guess. So there we go. So that's me. How about you, Phil?
Yeah, played iHunt on Sunday. Once again, very good. I don't think we went very fast.
We did not.
That night, like through material, we were kind of chatting, which isn't the worst thing, right? It's not a bad thing at all. But I think it's very interesting once you guys learned, and I say guys because Bob's here. Once they learned a little bit more about the target, they have decided on a completely different tact for how to deal with it. It's quite good. I wasn't expecting it. But I'm like, okay, let's run down this rabbit hole. Let's see where this will go. Mm-hmm. So they found out that the vampire in question is connected to the mob, and have decided that they're not going to kill a mob vampire. So Tony was like, we just need to find another vampire who doesn't like this vampire to like basically do it for us. So I'm like, all right, let's make some rolls here. Like, you need to figure out like who that might be. So they have a name, and next session we'll actually play that out. But yeah, it was good. It was a good session. I'm enjoying playing in my apartment. I think other than Bob with the chair that keeps rolling on him, I put those great wheels on it, and it's just doing the thing, which is it's rolling in a position. I think it's leaning back a little further than Bob wanted, but it doesn't want to stay. It doesn't want to stay in that position. I push the chair
back and okay, this is good, and it goes, nope, roll forward.
Yeah, it is like the danger of those super rolly wheels. It's just like whoop. So, but otherwise, I think it was. Otherwise, I mean, the session was fine.
Yep.
Company was good, and we got Andersons, so that was a nice what you call it. That was a nice grab. If you're not from Buffalo, Andersons is like a Culver's, I think, for our Midwest friends, like a Culver's, specializing in roast beef sandwiches and ice cream. So got me a roast beef and a milkshake. So
that's where I went today for lunch. I had to go out and get some stuff signed by a notary, so I stopped at Anderson's. They're not always the fastest place to get food, but I've never had them get my order wrong.
Yeah, they're not always the fastest, but it's okay.
Yeah.
But no, but I will take accuracy over speed every day of the week on that.
Sure,
always.
I mean, I like to get the thing that I wanted to eat, so I definitely, definitely for that.
And I'm a picky bastard, so I'll ask for something. I'll ask for something specific, and they will always get it for me every time, without question and without any argument. I love it. So it's good.
So anyway, that's me. You guys have a couple of announcements. Roll on in.
Go ahead,
all right. The first one is The Price of Coal is now on Kickstarter. This is Jed Adcock's game about coal miners and unions. It's a card-based, prompt-driven storytelling game about coal miners and their loved ones in West Virginia in 1921. It's about the struggles faced by those who stand up to their rights and about communities that come together through hard times. And it's about a history that should not be forgotten. It's about the fights that we still face today. So if you go on to Kickstarter, look for The Price of Coal. I got to play test this with Jen and one of our Friday night groups. It is a good game. It's got some serious feels and bleed in it. It is a fictionalized version of the actual events of West Virginia 1921, which were tragic as they stepped in and crushed the coal miners. So if you want to fight against the big company and fight the man, this is a game for you. But it's a GM-less game, so everybody can play it. It sets up in about probably 5 to 8 minutes, and you can play it in about an hour. Longer, depending on how many players you have, because you end up playing multiple characters that are interacting in different scenes and trying to go towards certain goals. So it's a lot of fun, and I believe it's already reached its
Yes,
funding goal. So
I've got it
now
up
you
on the
can-
screen. They're at 18,000 and change over their $16,000 goal.
Yep.
Fantastic.
so it's gonna-
Congratulations.
So it's going to fund. So go and support Jen and her game. It's a good game if you want to get into that sort of dark fun and kind of explore and bleed with a bunch of your friends. So over on Kickstarter, Price of Coal. Bob?
Cool. Yes, just wanted to reiterate that I am moving this weekend for the live people. So I will be setting things up and I need a little time. So we will not have a live show on September 7th. And consequently, there will be no podcast drop on 9/14 as a result. But we will be back live on 9/14 at 8 p.m. sharp to do a show for you. All right.
Yipper.
Let's move on into everybody's favorite segment, the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Workshop! It's another entry in the Adversary files. This time, it's coming for you. It's going to find you. It's going to get you. It's going to pick you up and put you on a shelf. It's the hunter and the collector here in the workshop.
Don't suck.
That would suck. All right. Well, every time we do another addition to the Adversary files, it always inspires us about another adversary. And I just thought of another one that we'll talk about after the show. 2 weeks ago, we did the Fanatic, and that inspired tonight's entry, which is the Hunter Collector. So we're going to open up another entry into our Adversary files.
And of course, to get us started, Phil's going to define the hunter and collector after I do this.
Behold! You are in the presence of Definition Panda.
Yeah, we got a couple of definitions we need to cover. Two big ones, of course. We got to start out with the word hunting, the activity of hunting wild animals or game, especially for food or sport. That's the dictionary term. And that's clearly animal based because if we're talking about RPGs, we need to expand it beyond hunting of wild animals, right? We could be hunting humanoids as well. For food or sport is another part of this definition that's clearly a definition rooted in modern culture. For our adversaries tonight, we're going to be focusing a little bit more on the sport part. Hunting for food is kind of implies that you're hunting for survival and not recreation. Although if you're playing a horror game, hunting for food might be legitimately its own form of horror. But we're really just going to stick with sport because we're going to pair it up with our other adversary. Which is the collector. So hunters are interested in trophies, right? Which leads us into another definition, right? Which is quarry, an animal pursued by a hunter, hound, predatory mammal, or bird of prey, right? It's a thing or person that is chased or sought, right? Hunters hunt quarries and hunt them for trophies, souvenir of an achievement, especially a part of an animal taken when hunting.
That is
Right.
a weird definition that they specifically specified predatory mammal. So, like, if a shark or fish or octopus was coming after
I'm not
you,
sure.
that is I realize you didn't make that one up, but that is a weird definition. I'm looking at that now.
I know. I popped that out. It seems, I mean, it really honestly seems a little overly specific, right? Like it's the animal that's pursued by something hunting it. I don't know that the second part is good, right? A thing or person that is chased or sought. I don't know. It seems easier.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, trophy, right? Souvenir of an achievement, especially part of an animal taken when hunting, right? Hunters, in our definition for RPGs, hunters are interested in tracking something or someone in order to kill them and make a trophy from them.
In other words, serial killers.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty much what it comes down to. All right. Let's jump over to the other side, which is collecting. Systematically seek and acquire items of a particular kind as a hobby. That sounds much nicer, right? So yeah, the collector is a person who is collecting something. They are seeking it, acquiring it, and then kind of putting it on display. And the reason that we group these two together is that even though they have different approaches, they're really about the same thing. They're really about getting something for a collection, right? Whether it's a hunter collecting trophies of its quarries, or whether it's a collector who is collecting something and putting it into their collection, it's essentially the same end result. So because of the overlap with these two, we kind of grouped them together in the adversary file tonight. So Jerry, give us a few examples of hunters and collectors.
All right. We're talking about some from popular media. So the obvious one that comes to a lot of people's minds would be the Predators for the various Predator movies.
Definitely
Kraven,
hunters, right? Definitely hunters.
There's Kraven the Hunter from the Spider-Man, who is looking to basically best himself against the best prey. If you are a fan of Marvel Comics or even the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you have the Collector, who collects just about everything. There's Kivas Fajo from Star Trek The Next Generation, who tried to collect data.
They all try to collect data.
That's true.
Why can't they just leave data alone? Sorry, that's a lower deck reference.
No, it's okay. There's Francisco Scaramanga, who is the villain in The Man with the Golden Gun. He lures people to his island and then tries to eliminate them one-on-one. If you're a fan of the Clone Wars TV show, there was Garnak and the Trandoshans from Star Wars, who specifically hunted young Jedi. They would get the Padawans and the younglings and drop them onto a planet and try to hunt them down. That did not go well for them. There's Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, who was very specifically hunting and collecting people for a very particular reason. And of course, there's all the various variations on the most dangerous game, which is always a group of people stuck in a bad situation being hunted by professional hunters to kill them. Everything from the actual story, The Most Dangerous Game, to things like Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, yes!
Yeah, baby.
Oh, I was hoping you were going to name Hard Target.
That's
I
like
love
the
Hard
best
Target.
GCB
I love
movie
Hard
ever.
Target so much. For many reasons.
I am more of a Lionheart guy, but I understand and I understand your love of Hard Target. Oh gosh, that's so good.
I will answer Lemming's question right now. Can we have a hunter that doesn't collect? Yes. People like Francisco Scaramanga, he just kills them. He doesn't really collect anything from them. But generally, most of your hunters are going to also have a collection of some sort. But you can just have one that just hunts people down just for the sport of it. Yeah,
I would say then that hunter really is collecting, for a lack of a better term, right, the experience, the memory, the experience, or just I guess in its purest form is probably experiencing the thrill of the hunt, but probably also enjoying it. But as we know, I mean, a lot of hunters keep trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good question.
So with a pretty good idea now of who the hunter and the collector are, let's dive into them and see how they work. Jerry, what are the parts that make up the hunter and the collector?
Well, first of all, they're going to be shaped by the desire. It defines who they are. It defines what they do. And it's going to kind of decide what drives them. And when we look at it a little bit closer, you're going to see that they're all going to have some very similar traits.
Yeah. So first of all, they have a desire to collect something, right? The hunter collector. And can we just, because I wrote it this way in almost all the rules, but are we okay, like just kind of using them interchangeably?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay. I may say both of them, but if I say one or the other, I mean both.
Yeah.
All right. The hunter collector desires something, right? It could be a trophy of a worthy adversary, right? Like the Predator. It could be rare galactic artifacts like the collector. Or it could be other unique items. Whatever it is, they have an internal desire to have these things.
And so, most of them are going to have some sort of collection. Hunter collector, unless they're just starting out, are going to have a collection of some of the items that they desire. And as a result, this collection is going to be housed somewhere. And they're going to frequently visit their collection as it brings them joy to see the fruits of their efforts. And this will give a place that they can be encountered, or a place for players, the GM, to have information revealed.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The hunter collector, they're never satisfied. There's no stopping point for them. There's always another item for their trophy case or room. The collector will never have an end, right? Like, if it seems like an end, their desire will shift and expand their collection to include other things. But almost always they're on the hunt for something. especially something they don't have, right? The more unique, the more rare, those kinds of things.
And so this is going to lead them to have warped values. In terms of an adversary, the hunter-collector doesn't abide by federal laws or rules when it comes to acquiring their collection. They have no trouble breaking laws in order to add to their collection. They have no trouble going against cultural and societal norms and mores. And for the hunter, this means murdering things, and for the collector, it likely means stealing things. This doesn't mean that they might not have a moral code. It just means they don't always obey the ones that regular society follows.
Yeah, I mean, they could have a perfectly good set of moral codes, but it will break down in the face of their desire.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like maybe they don't steal anything else, but they'll definitely steal for the thing for their collection.
Yeah.
Hunters also have means. You can't be a collector unless you have a way of acquiring things for your collection. Otherwise you're, I don't know, like you're just nose pressed to the window kind of thing. So it means that they either have the skills to acquire the items themselves, like perhaps a jewel thief, right, who steals things for their, steals rare jewels for their private collection, or they have the means to employ others to do this work for them. And if it's the latter, then they probably have access to some sort of wealth, right, like a business empire, family wealth, something like that. They might generate wealth by acquiring and selling things that are adjacent to their collection. Like maybe they steal a whole bunch of jewels, but they collect only the emeralds. They keep the emeralds and sell the rest to kind of fuel themselves. But whatever it is, they're going to be able to get things for their collection.
And to do that, they're going to have some sort of focus. Now, the collection is going to be their main focus, but they're not totally myopic. The collection is going to be expanding, and that collection is going to still be what drives them. And everything they do is going to be heading towards that focus. And as a GM, you can use that to show motivation. And as players, you can use that to kind of determine where they're going to go next and what to do with them.
Yep. Finally, they have their eye on something, right? In terms of them as an adversary, when they enter the game, there's something they want for their collection that they do not have, right? It would be kind of boring if like you encountered a collector adversary who's like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good. I have it all. No, usually like the way you have this adversary show up in the game is that they've got their eye on something, and trying to get it is really what their story in your game is going to be about.
Excellent knowledge of the inner workings of the hunter and collector. But what makes them interesting adversaries, Phil?
Sure. The appeal of the hunter and the hunter-collector lies in the collection and the means that they will go in order to collect things, right? Like if we look at the collector from the MCU, right, as seen in the movie, like Guardians of the Galaxy, like we're like fascinated and also terrified by that collection, right? Especially when we see his collection contains living beings. That's kind of, I mean, it tells you a lot about this character, but it also like, it's terrifying, right? And intriguing. Like what else is in this collection if he's willing to collect things like, the Sputnik dog and whatever. In the comic book, that dog is very interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
He doesn't get nearly as good of a rap in the movies as he does in the movies. Anyway, if we look at the Predator, right? Like in the movie, like we start off the movie, it's been so long since I seen it like for the first time, like I can hardly remember this, but you start off thinking of the Predator as like some sort of mindless monster, right? Like, I mean, even Dutch says it, like, who would do this? Yeah. Like who would skin these people and hang them up? Like what kind of monster would do that? The Predator is mutilating bodies. We don't really understand its motives, but then like we get to see that scene where it cleans the skull and spine and like puts it like away. And then you're like, oh, we're like, it's hunting us in the same way that people who hunt animals like collect antlers and, other like, get taxidermy done, right? Like that's what we learn about the Predator. And so, like we like then get a whole different insight into this creature. So we are equally mesmerized by the lengths that a hunter collector will go to expand their collection, and also repulsed, right? Equal. It's kind of like we're both mesmerized, like, wow, look what they're doing, and then also like, this is terrible.
And you look at Kivas Fajo from Star Trek. He fakes Data's death in a Summercraft explosion to capture Data and kind of throw people off. And then once he has Data, he threatens to kill his most loyal subject in a pretty horrible way just to get Data to perform. And
yeah, like that character's awful.
Yes, he is.
Like,
he is absolutely horrible.
He's a terrible I mean, literally like faked the death to make like thousands, right? It's the Enterprise. Thousands of people think that he was dead just so he could have him.
And even worse, once he gets him, he's got this follower who's super loyal, but he's willing to pretty much torture her to death.
Yes.
Just to get Data to act a certain way. Yeah, perform a certain way. He's a horribly badass person. I love to hate him, and I don't love him at all, but I love to hate him. So.
I love the last second of that when they're transporting Data back, and they're like, "This weapon was in discharge," and he's like, "I don't know." He just like hands him, and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Like hands him the weapon and leaves.
And who is the one on the ship who realizes somebody I know gives Data a look like they know what happened and aren't going to say anything? Is it Jordan
I think it's Riker. Like because I think O'Brien or whoever's operating the transporter is like, I think he's like, they say something about the weapon being discharged, which the transporter can just do away with, right? Like, so they're like, there's a weapon in discharge, but it's fine, whatever, he's transporting in. And I think it's Riker or somebody who asks him about it, and he's like, I don't know, in true Data style, right? I don't know. All right, so in many ways, especially in this hobby, right, and in geekdom in general, like, part of us has empathy with the hunter collector because in this hobby and a number of our adjacent hobbies, we are also collectors, hopefully like legal ones, but in one way or another, like, we are collectors. I mean, Jerry definitely is. And Jerry has hunted for things to get them, right? Like,
yes, I have
sought and found. I mean, I've done it before. Like when I was building out my underground collection, I was raiding eBay looking for the best deals to get all my pieces for that collection. So definitely I've done my share of collecting. Bob, I know you have as well.
Oh yeah.
So I think that part of the appeal to the hunter collector is like, as kind of as fandom geeks, like, I mean, on one level we get it.
Yeah. I mean, we can connect because we know that excitement of finding that rare piece for a collection, and how desperate you feel sometimes when you want to get something and you can't get it, or when you want to get something and somebody gets it from you at the last minute. We would never act on those impulses, but you have this, I wish I could have gotten this, and that makes it easy to identify with the hunter collector, taking that to the next extreme over.
I will say that one of my most exciting acquisitions in my gaming collection was at Gen Con in the auction house, where I stumbled onto, in the auction room, a first edition copy of Whispering Vault. It's a game I love, right? I have personal fondness, so does Bob, for this game. And the original comb-bound version of the book pops up in the Gen Con auction house while I was just sitting in there cooling off one afternoon. And my buddy had an auction number, and I was like, holy shit. I'm like, you got to bid on this thing. I'm like, and I'm quickly like counting out my monies, right? Like, how high can I go on this thing? And I'm like super excited, right? By the time it goes up for auction. Also, no one else knows what this game is, so I snatched it for like $20, right? Like nobody had a clue what it was, or any relevance to it, because like people were buying like a completely different volume of stuff. So I snatched it for $20. Like I was set. I was like, I'll go up to 100. I won't go any higher than 100. And it was like $20, and I'm like, all right. Like, not only did I get it, but like got it good, right? Like, was quite pleased with myself.
That's why it's fun to hit old bookstores, thrift stores. The number of places, when I was still a field rep, the number of places I went to where you'd find the comic book / smoke shop / whatever. And in the back, they'd have that box of games that nobody wanted anymore because nobody plays those games anymore. And you're going through and saying, here's a copy of, it's a copy of the player's handbook, but, it's got a scuff on the cover. So they'll sell it to you for $1.50 because, nobody wants a book that's got a scuff on the cover. Well, no, there you go.
Yeah.
And,
that's how I got my current Nighthawks box set. I was in a game store in rural Indiana, and they just had a box of like old games, and I look in and there's like a full intact box set of Star Frontiers Nighthawks, and I was like, oh, I'll take that, please.
I looked out at unfortunately it closed down this year. There was a place in Albany called Flights of Fantasy, and they were a bookstore, game store, kind of everything, and they had rooms full of used books plus lots of new books. They had walls full of new games, but also had these walls of just used games. They would buy and sell games all the time, and every time you went in there, it was different. When I used to go there, I used to take my camera, and I would, those of you who follow me on Facebook, I used to I'm here for the next hour. Here's what's on the shelf. Let me know if you want something. Yep. Yeah. And and I would get that. But I came across, I liked to play the role-playing game Heavy Gear. And I was in there, and up on top of one of the shelves was this little Heavy Gear box set that I didn't know existed. I didn't ever see it listed in any of the product listings or anything. And they've got it up there, and it's still new in box. And it's just sitting on the top shelf, and I'm like, how much is this? They're like, I don't know, like $4. And I was like, that was why the other place, and Phil, you'd appreciate this, going to the Complete Strategist in New York City.
Oh my goodness. That place is a treasure trove. It's got so much junk wedged into it's you never know what you'll find. Oh, that's right. Senda's mentioning a place, Black and Red, which is in Denver, which is also like that, which is just got a ton of old stuff just packed into shelves. It's good. I mean, we've talked about the dangers of nostalgia, but sometimes, man,
sometimes you gotta feed it.
Now, Bob might remember this real quick. Those of you from the Buffalo area might remember Crazy Igor's, back when it was still the good Crazy Igor's.
Crazy Igor's Discount Gaming Warehouse.
You could walk. You never wanted to sell them anything, but if you wanted to buy stuff, you'd walk in there. There would literally be piles of games on the floor because he'd get stuff in, and it would just you'd literally like stepping over piles of games and modules. You'd be like, oh, here's the TSR section. There'd be like 80 modules on the floor. You'd ruffle through them until you found the one you wanted, and it was always good. We always loved those.
Terrible name, hidden gems. All right. So you gonna keep saying everything I say, Jerry?
Well, not now.
Okay, Jerry. Now that we understand quite a bit about the Hunter Collector, let's talk about how to make them a great adversary.
Well, first of all, they're going to be great as an opposition. They're a fun adversary to have co-op in your game because you've got a motivation, and it's not always the motivation that the players are used to working against. The real trick is the characters either have to get in the way of what they're trying to collect, or they need to be the thing that the Hunter Collector is trying to collect. And once you understand that, you can easily plot out a good story for them. Beyond that initial advice, there's some advice we're going to give that we suggest to make your Hunter Collector a really good adversary for the players.
Yeah, first one is come up with something interesting for the collection, right? The collector is defined by what they collect. So think of things that are going to get the character's attention, right? Like ancient antique books of magic, rare records, skulls of like fierce prey, things like that. Conversely, you can actually subvert this. You can actually subvert this to make a very strange collector that can also be interesting by picking something super mundane but put a twist on it, right? So like a time traveler who collects like the forks from the last meals of famous people, right? Like they just keep appearing and taking the forks, like, and every time they take a fork, that person's dead, like before their next meal. Like that's an interesting twist. But forks seem, strange, especially if they don't know where the forks initially came from. right? They just find this like display case with forks with names on them, right? Not realizing that like this, person's traveling back in time kind of thing. So yeah, you can do a lot with it, but really, if you're building one of these adversaries, like come up with something good for the collection.
Yep. Because next you want to think about how they're going to obtain these items. If they're a hunter, how do they hunt? What weapons do they use? Do they set traps? Do they have minions? Look about how are they going to get what they're looking for. And if they're a collector, how do they obtain these? Do they steal them? Do they hire people to steal them? If you're the person that collects the fork of the last meal, do you sometimes make sure it's their last meal?
Yes. Yeah. Good
That's
point. Are you making it the last meal, or are you just there because you know it's going to be the last meal? It's a good point.
You know, that record's going to sell a lot more if the artist is dead, that kind of thing.
Correct.
So,
you need to reveal what the adversary collects to the characters. Because of how much of an influence what they're collecting is on the collector or hunter, you got to put that knowledge quick into the hands of the players as this story starts to unfold, right? And this is always best done through play, like not through exposition, like have them discover this info. Kind of in the same way that Dutch figures it out, right? Like in Predator, Dutch eventually figures out what's going on, right? Like that they're being hunted because they are hunters.
Now, you want to see if you can try to have the climactic encounter occur in a place where the collection is going to add drama. Because the collector hunter is going to be very protective of their collection. And as a result, having an encounter in their lair is going to make them more protective, much more fierce, probably push even more against their moral codes, and also give the players something else to negotiate with.
Yeah, because now they're torn, right? Because one, they got to protect that collection, but they also got to like stomp the players. Like it's going to be, you can get into some really good, tough choices. If you're playing something like I Hunt, that's a thing where you could imperil a monster by having them make, a shitty choice between protecting their collection or going after somebody. Like there's a lot you can do. It's fun to catch the jewel thief. It's fun to catch the jewel thief like while he's boosting the set of jewels, but it's going to be way more interesting if you can track him back to where he has all the other jewels, right? Okay. So depending on what they collect, have the hunter or collector use some of their collection against the players, right? This works probably more like better with the collector, but if your collector collects exotic weapons, like they should use an exotic weapon or a couple of them to go after the players, right? Like they should have some really interesting stuff, right? Don't just don't leave everything in the shrink wrap, right? Like let them actually use some of that stuff. If it's a hunter, right? Like maybe the hunter has, if we're talking about parts of their collection, like, I don't know, maybe they've made claws out of, one of their creatures, or, maybe they have an array of weapons that they use to hunt different creatures. So like when they come after you, it's not just like with like a rifle, they've got like net guns and blow darts and like all sorts of stuff like that.
If they're the kind of hunter that collects creatures, maybe they try to get the players, into the pen with the, Bartrathian rogue beast or something like that, and let it tear the players apart a little bit. All those kind of things work well. But the after the collector should start though with them obtaining something that's not the big thing they're after, but just another important object that's in line with their collection. First of all, because you want to build up to the big thing they're after, so it can be the climax of the story. And if you do things and scenes where you have the collector getting smaller versions or different things in their collection, it helps to reveal the nature bit by bit. Think about your average Batman 66 villain or any of the villains from the Batman series from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where, the Penguin's going to be collecting rare birds, and the Catwoman's going to be collecting cats, and Mr. Freeze is going to be going after something made out of ice that's going to have diamonds in it. All of those kind of work towards the character's motif. And, in the early days, a lot of the Batman things were, the Gotham Museum of Art is going to have the, encrusted, golden, gem-studded, Sphinx cat from Egypt. Well, you know who's going to show up and try to steal that thing, or get somebody else to steal it for her. Those kind of things can work, to your advantage, and play around with them. And it allows the players to kind of begin to follow up, because as you start dropping in the campaign that there's a new, that there's now a ruby-studded penguin that's going to be, in somebody's collection, that gives the players an idea of where they're going to go. It also helps the GM know where the players want to go. Yes, Mr. Freeze collects, early on he collected ice things and often tried to get gemstones before they improved his character by making him the tragic character he is today, Andy. We'll talk about Mr. Freeze in the break. All right. Phil?
Yeah, the Collector Hunter works great for a one-shot, also works great for a campaign. In a one-shot, right, the Collector Hunter is trying to get the one big thing. Players are out to stop them. Straightforward plot. In a campaign, the Hunter Collector can pop up and disappear, right? They're actually a great bottle episode kind of character, like to have them just pop up, try to get a thing, and then disappear. If you want to do like a story arc with them, then it's kind of the long play for the really big thing they want. So maybe they're doing some deception, some misdirection, kind of leading up to the fact that they're going to make a big play, which the players are going to have to discover what it is, then get there and thwart them, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it works in both modes.
Lastly, the Hunter Collector might be trying to add one or more of the PCs to their collection, or they may be the object of the hunt. And this is a good chance for the hunter to place the PCs in an unknown or controlled environment. And just make sure the hunter's going to use that environment. Think about the Predator, how they have invisibility and use the jungle and the trees to make it difficult to be targeted, even though they're outnumbered 6-1. Or in Marvel Comics, those of you familiar with Arcade, he's always capturing superheroes, normally the X-Men and or Spider-Man, and dropping them into strange arcade games and making them fight against his robots as a way to assassinate them, and makes it kind of a game for him.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if Arcade is actually a collector or if he's a mastermind, or
he's a hunter.
Shitty mastermind.
He's a hunter assassin because he's not.
He is a hunter. You're correct, because he is. Yeah. He doesn't hunt directly. He employs his murder world to do it for his entertainment.
If he's not actually doing,
no, he does it because he's being paid to.
Yes,
he's a mercenary for hire. You pay Arcade to kill off, to unsuccessfully kill off superheroes.
He's not very good at it.
No, but you want to make sure though that there's going to be an opportunity for the PCs to use the environment as well. This could be a lot of fun as the players begin to realize what they can use. Think about the great montage scene with Dutch and Predator. If the heroes have limited resources, like if they have lesser access to gear and spell books, this can lead to a cat and mouse chase through several scenes and let them use the environment themselves to kind of give themselves an advantage. But remember, if you're going to put the characters into a controlled environment, don't nerf the abilities. Characters with magic, psionics, and superpowers should still have the ability to use them.
Yeah.
Don't do that thing where now the spell, you can limit it. Say, okay, you only have access to your low-level spells because you don't have access to your full spell book.
Yeah, there's a dimensional anchor here. You can't teleport out.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But nothing's worse than the I'm a superhero with no superpowers thing. That very rarely, it sometimes works in TV shows because of the way that the writers work it out. There's Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers. Nimrod is somebody who's a hunter, and he likes to capture the Rangers, take off their badges, and let them trigger their powers, and drop them into the wilderness. And they always have to try to find a way to get their badges back, but use their skills ahead of time. That works because they have other skills they can use. But if you just go in and take something, it leaves the players with just kind of feeling, well, gee, my spellcaster can't do anything. Why am I playing this game tonight? Kind of thing. So you want to always provide resources for the PCs to use during the hunt, so that at some point they get to turn the tables on the hunter, and that's always a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way to go. All right. So before we wrap up this overview of the Hunter and Collector, how do we use them as an ally, Phil?
Yep, absolutely. Right. The hunter collector works totally fine as an ally. If we look at the collector first, right, the collector ally is somebody whose collection might be useful to whatever the players are doing. Could be the exotic weapon collector, right, that the players go to because maybe they're, maybe they're fighting supernatural things, and like this collector collects all sorts of supernatural, weapons, and it's like, oh, we need, we don't have something to fight this guy. Let's go see our friend the collector, who we can try to convince lend us, some rare axe or something, right? Like it's
You might be able to just lend them knowledge.
could be, right? Has vast library, allows them to peruse the library. The collector might need to be convinced or coaxed into lending stuff, especially if it's something like that the players are going to take away with them, knowing that players are, pretty destructive. Might not be fully willing to give up something from their collection. So this might require a couple things. It might require some sort of payment, as in the players show up with something that the collector would like to have in the collection as like a trade, or show of good faith, or could be side quest time.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, I could totally give you this axe, but I'm going to need you to go get me, I'm going to need you to go get me this thing, or smooth out a thing with the, with the witches, like, who are angry at me, whatever. Yeah. So in addition to sharing their collection, the collector might just know stuff or have good contacts, right? A collector of art is going to know rich people. They're going to know forgers. They're going to hear rumors. They're going to know the value of something. They're going to know the history of a piece, right? So you don't just have to go to them to get a thing, like Jerry said. They also represent, like, they're geeks, right? Like your art collector is an art geek. So, if you need the lowdown on a particular artist or a piece or something, or even the ins and outs of a museum, your art collector is going to know the deal.
Yep.
I don't know what else you need to know about a museum other than you going through the skylight.
Always. Or you get yourself back, or you Trojan horse it and get yourself boxed up inside a box of like dinosaur bones.
There you go. Exactly. Or the collector could even be an ally, a reluctant ally. You might have something where the players are on a different mission, but that mission happens to revolve around something the collector wants. And now, even though he's normally an adversary, now he's a temporary ally because he will help them against a greater foe if they allow him to get an item of some sort or another. This is a good time to have your players interact with a villain in a particular way. But the hunter can also be an ally. Like the collector, the hunter's going to have knowledge, they're going to have skills and equipment. They can also be convinced to help the heroes against the quarry if it's of interest. And as I just mentioned, they may want to hunt the enemy. But the players may have to deal with the hunter wanting to take a trophy after the hunt. That can be bad if you're trying to capture them alive and they just want the head.
Yes.
But they can be good allies. So.
Yeah, that's our look at the hunter collector, right? This is our overview. We're going to check in, take a break, see what the chat room's up to. And then Bob, but we're going to do all of that. But first, Bob's going to tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
Yeah, so the newest streaming show on our network is They're a Super Geek, which is an actual play one-shot live stream created by 3 BIMPOC players to highlight the voices of marginalized folks in the tabletop RPG scene. They feature gender marginalized GMs and a diverse rotating cast of players. Tune in every other Thursday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time on the Misdirected Mark Twitch channel. And apparently I have a mic problem now.
You sound all right to me.
Yeah.
I mean, everything looks like it's fine.
Okay, so what now we're while we're doing that, the chat room. So Andy, what is your question about Mr. Freeze?
I think she was being cheeky.
Oh.
We said, we know who's gonna go steal that cat thing from the museum. I think she was being cheeky.
Yes. I've always loved some of the old Batman villains. There's I think we talked about this. I don't know, did we talk about this last week? We talked about Batman and the Outsiders, where Batman is in Japan, and I guess the Tokyo Bell building has a giant phone on top of it. And
yes.
This was back in the 70s and early 80s when the Joker was always trying to steal, the big penny, the big this, the big that, and Batman's hiding behind the phone, staring at some villains, He turns the katana and goes, "I hope Joker never finds out about this phone." And it was just kind of goofy, but I always liked that sort of thing.
The big penny was always like in the back of the Bat Cave.
Yeah, I think that was actually was that a Joker thing or a Two-Face thing? I know that Batman got tied. Batman or Robin got tied to it, and they were going to flip it in the air, and if it landed the wrong way, one or the other of them died. And
if I could have just a nickel for every time in Batman 66 somebody got tied to something.
Yep.
Explains so much now.
Yes.
Oh man.
We all approve heavily. Yeah. We're gonna take this person in leather and spandex, then tie them up.
And on top of it, they're struggling. You're never gonna get away with this, Catwoman. Like, oh goodness.
And don't
banning myself off.
Don't make me use this strange device on you.
Right. I really should just watch some more Batman 66 again. Like,
Learn a very, very, very,
influential. Yes.
Yeah. Oh man!
So
Andy also pointed out a good example of a hunter-collector combo: the Vidians from Voyager.
The Vidians, are those the ones that stole
They had the phage.
The organs? Oh God!
Organs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not so much a trophy as like I need to replace these parts of me. I'm going to like take them from you. But they were definitely hunters for 100%. Like they were definitely hunters because they were hunting people for body parts. Stole Neelix's lungs.
Yep. I mean, from that perspective, you could consider the Borg to be hunter collectors because they would. They would.
We've already classified the Borg. We put them in. The Borg is a hive mind.
They also collected civilizations. They added their distinctiveness to their own.
That's true because you know what? Because they didn't go after. They would be a good example of a hunter collector because the Borg wouldn't bother going after races that had nothing to add to the collective.
Yeah, they left certain species alone.
Yeah,
when they
so they're and if it isn't obvious, as with all of our adversaries, you can cross over a bunch of these.
Sure.
So you can have a lot of fun with them.
All right. Well, let's jump back into the fray here. We're going to jump into our roundtable portion with the following question.
Yeah, question 1. What is your favorite collector, either from media or ones that you have GM'd or ones you've encountered in play? Chair?
In media, Craven the Hunter. Depending on the writer, he could be obsessed, he could be canny, he could be tactful. He was always trying to come up with ways to use herbs and traps to make life difficult for the heroes, but he always wanted to take them out himself. He rarely ever tried to use minions to do anything more than just to kind of wear down the hero. The minions were never there to take out the hero. And while Spider-Man was his main adversary, he sometimes went up against people like Tigra, and I think he went up against the Hulk once. I know he got tied up with the Circus of Crime a couple times. But he was always he was a interesting villain because unlike a lot of other superheroes, he wasn't much more than an average human. He did use herbs and magic to make himself a little tougher, so he was about on par with like Captain America as far as strength and endurance and agility. But he was more of just kind of good at using all the things he had, just make life difficult for the heroes, and that was a good theme to use. GMing, I had a villain in V&V named Haphazard, and he was a collector of toys. He was basically a rich eccentric kind of spoiled brat who was always going out to collect the newest, coolest toys and would do things like shrink wrap an entire Toys R Us. And more of a nuisance villain for the longest time. Eventually, the heroes ended up turning him to the side of good, sort of. But just it was interesting because whenever I would drop in that there was some sort of new collectible toy, or the actor who played so and so on Space Galaxy Quest Star was showing up at the local whatever, they knew that Haphazard was going to try to show up and collect this guy and put him into his collection for a little while. Never a malignant villain, never was actually out to hurt anybody. Just kind of wanted to collect things for the sake of collecting them, and it was kind of fun to use because they knew that those adventures were going to be a little bit lighter-hearted. So.
Yeah, it's a nice beat change. Like Baron Von Badass, and then switch it up to the toy collector. Like, It's nice.
naturally.
Right, Bob?
Yeah, so I was always a fan of Craven as well. And
Big Spider-Man guy you are?
Yep. Although he was one of those guys that the longer he went, I felt like the weaker he got. And not like weak from physically, but like weak from the way they wrote him.
Yeah.
Like he kind of devolved in my eyes over the years, but he back in the day, it was always fun to see Craven pop up. It's like, oh, Spider-Man's in for a while. This guy's gonna make his life miserable.
Some of the iterations of the animated series did a good job with him, and a couple of them also. Some of them.
I wouldn't mind seeing a MCU version of Craven, because the MCU winds up doing kind of some interesting translations. I would be interested to see what a modern take on Craven. Like, I don't know if we need the I would like to see one instead of herbs and stuff like that it's like Oscorp, drugs and, whatever for its enhancements, and, a whole bunch of hammer tech that works, or, something like that.
They keep talking about bringing Craven in, so.
Yeah.
We'll
he doesn't even need to be a Spider-Man villain.
Yeah.
If they don't have crossover, he's a really good street level villain. So
yeah, he'd be a good Daredevil villain.
Yep. She-Hulk.
He gets slotted in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah.
What about you, Phil?
From media, I have always been a fan of Predator. I love all the good Predator movies, which is to say, I think all but like the last one. That I forget what I can never get the name straight on all of them. Not the one where they.
The Predator is the last one.
Yeah. I don't think that was. I wasn't thrilled with that one, but Predator 1 and Predator 2, I have always liked. Aliens versus Predator, I liked.
Aliens versus Predator 2 was not so good.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. Predators, the one where they all get captured and released on the planet, that one's fantastic. So yeah, I like the Predator. I like the idea. Like, I loved when I was a kid in the movie theater when you found out that this was like no mindless monster. And there was a thing in the 80s, like when I was a kid in the 70s, bad guys were bad and dumb. Right? Like they were maniacs. They were like unhinged. Like, I think of and I don't even remember that, like the bad guy from Cobra. Yeah. Right? Like the bad guy from Cobra, the bad guy from Commando. Yeah. Right? Like the bad guy from Commando was like, he's awful. Like it's such a bad character. But then, like, in the late 80s, you started to see like much better bad guys, and I attribute it first to Hans Gruber. Right? Like Hans Gruber was like, for me, like the bad guy of bad guys. Yeah, like smart, not a lunatic, in control, but still a thief. And the Predator for me was like that because the movie Predator is a sci-fi horror movie. Right? It's a last girl movie it is. It's a last girl movie. Like all those guys get hunted down until Dutch is the last one left. And when you discovered that the Predator's there, like essentially on safari, like I was like, oh, so this thing isn't like some mindless, like, jungle beast. It's an alien who's got like high-tech tools and is here like on vacation hunting, human soldiers. And I was like, I like this a lot. And if I remember correctly, isn't that also McTiernan? Didn't he direct Predators?
Yeah, it
might be. Anyway, I also, if you've never seen the movie, you should see it. 2, there's an interesting essay that talks about how all of the characters in Dutch's crew are various forms of toxic masculinity, and that the Predator basically kills them off in the same way that they're being toxic.
That's a great essay. And yes, John McTiernan directed the first Predator movie.
I don't know if that's what I mean. It's one of those things that, like, our English teachers reading into it kind of thing. Like, I don't know if Tiernan set out to make an essay about like toxic masculinity. But as it turns out, when you go back and watch the movie, like they're all different forms of toxic masculinity and get killed. We'll try to, Chromatic Chameleon's asking for the link. We'll try to scare up that essay during the rest of the segment or into the next segment. It's really good. But if you think about it, like the way that what's his face dies with the chain gun, Ventura dies with the chain gun, and anyway, it's good. It's a good movie. Anyway, Predator's always been my favorite media hunter. And then in terms of GM, I had to really rack my brain. I don't have a lot of collectors in my repertoire, but a couple of years ago, I ran a Swords Without Master game on a Sunday morning at Origins, and I know Senda was in it because she consumed a metric ton of candied ginger during the game. But I had created another one of our dead gods, and it was like the collector of lost things or something like that. And I basically had each character tell me what the collector had taken from them. Like, I think it was one person, like their sister was taken. Another one, it was like a weapon. Whatever it was, the collector had collected something from everybody. And the whole Swords game was they were going to get their stuff back. So that was a fun that was a fun Sunday morning adventure. Oh yeah.
Now wait, this is a Senda game. Are you sure that the collector didn't just steal her character's heart?
No, it wasn't a Senda. It wasn't a Senda's game. It was a Phil. It was a Phil game. Senda played in it.
That's what I mean. I was gonna say, but that'd be good messy romance though.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Senda's was. I'm pretty sure what I don't know if Senda remembers what they took, but it was something semi messy. And then I think Gator might have been in that game. Nor, Chris, Schmitty, that might have been that group. But I have this. I was trying to find my notes for it, but it's Swords Without Master, so like I don't take a lot of notes for Swords.
Yeah,
I probably had a picture and like a rough idea of something. Anyway,
all right. I just put a link to that article. In
the chat. Good job, nice. Bob.
My Google Fu is strong.
Good job. All right, question number 2. What do you think is the biggest challenge in running or going up against a collector or hunter? Bob?
That is a damn fine question. And honestly, I have nothing to say on that.
Okay. I'll jump in. I think when it comes to a collector, I think for me the challenge is making them a reoccurring adversary, right? Like if I'm making a one shot out of a collector, like no big deal. I'll make them super weird. You can go run into their palace of stuff, take them down, whatever. If I have to use this character over and over, like that's tricky for me because now I need like, well, I can't show off the whole collection or, I don't want to give up the layer right away. Like, how do I make this interesting? So reoccurring adversary is a tricky one for me. I have to actually like do a little extra work to kind of figure out how I want to have them around. I really like collectors as one shots. Or like Jerry said, like just like, that change of beat thing. But like I don't think I've ever done a story arc with a collector, like having a collector pop in a bottle episode, a one shot, that kind of thing. But I don't think I've ever like kept it going. What about you, Jer?
Mine is trying to make sure they have interesting collections and interesting locations. I want it to be something different each time. I want to capture that feel that it's not just same old. I'm going to go back to Batman 66 / Batman in the 60s and 70s. Like every time the Penguin showed up, it was a different Penguin gimmick. You knew he was going to go after the duck or the bird, but why? And what was he going to use? And how was it going to be something, interesting? And how was it going to play in? And sometimes how were you going to build up the stories that the players finally figured out what they were actually going after? That's always interesting because you don't just want to have it be, well, there's a jeweled bird downtown, so we know the penguin's going to show up this time. That's not that much fun. It's more, something's going on, why, what, how to make it different. And then once they're there, they're not just showing up with, the amazing muskrat man isn't going to show up again with just a bunch of people dressed like muskrats. What's going to be different this time? That kind of thing. That's when you
need the honest, like you need the bad guy team up where like the jeweled bird is in town. And so like everybody's like, oh, the penguin's going to make a squeeze for it. But in truth, the penguin's hanging back and like the Joker is going to make a play across town. Right. Well,
or if you really want to mix it up and have the players thinking, you have the jeweled bird. Everybody thinks the penguin's going to show up. The Riddler comes in and snatches it in before the penguin can get it because the Riddler's got beef with the penguin right now. And next thing you know, they're going at it.
Or you could go full throw mama from the train, and the Joker is going to go get the thing for the penguin, and the penguin's going to go get the thing from the Joker, right? I said throw mama from the train. There's actually a Hitchcock reference. I can't remember the name of the movie of.
Strangers on a Train.
Thank you, because throw mama from the train is not the primary reference for that structure.
But I think that's the one that more people would be familiar with today, unfortunately.
Erwin.
I throw mama from the train.
Patty. Wow.
All I think of is throw Gregor from the train, and that's a completely different animal.
That's a Connex. That's a memorable moment in our Connex game.
All right. Question number 3. What is your secret sauce when it comes to the Collector Hunter?
So my secret sauce is actually what Jerry just said is his biggest challenge. I love coming up with weird collections. Like, I will really go out of my way to stop and try to find something really strange. I remember we had a mark. What was it? We had a mark for our heist game. It was like we were coming back. We were playing a one shot, and it was like the ultimate Elvis collector because I think you guys like stole Elvis's car, like from the middle of a casino.
Yep.
But whatever it is, like I love weird collections. In fact, I actually find weird collections fascinating when I discover them online. When you find somebody who has like some like really esoteric collection, it's like, oh, I'll give you an example. There's this woman on TikTok who is like an expert because she collects it in Pyrex, like to the point that people like send her pictures of like Pyrex measuring cups. And she's like, oh, based on that cup, that is like a circa 1965 like Pyrex measuring cup, like based on the font of the numbers. And not that I have any interest in it, but I'm just fascinated that somebody is like somebody's like passion. Yes. Somebody's passion is Pyrex. So yeah, that's me. What about you, Jer?
I just have to say, it just dawned on me. Talk about collectors with weird obsessions and collecting things that drive them to strange motivations. Nicolas Cage. He's a massive Elvis collector to the point that he married one of Elvis's kids, and then got himself so deep in debt.
That's one way to collect, I guess.
I mean, he married Lisa. He married Lisa Marie Presley. But he's a huge Elvis collector, and then that got him to so much debt that he ended up doing all those strange movies. So, you want a strange collector with motivations? There you go. But no, I like a collector who uses his collection either as information or as actual weapons. The players have to end up going up against the collection. I had a recurring villain in V&V again named Piecemeal, and he was a villain who collected unusual gear and eventually powers from heroes and villains alike. He ended up getting a piece of gear that allowed him to steal powers. But he would often try to get like to put it in Marvel Comics, he tried to get like Dr. Doom's glove. He would try to steal Captain America's shield. He'd try to get the arc reactor from Iron Man's chest, that kind of thing. And what made him interesting was not only that he would get obsessed with collecting something, but every time they went up against him, they had no idea what other gear he'd collected. And sometimes it would be going on in the background that, they went up against a villain, and that villain was underpowered because Piecemeal had stolen something big for them already, and now they know they're going to be dealing with, the atomic axe and the silver surfboard kind of thing. It just made him. He was an interesting villain to have pop up. The key was to feed his collection in other adventures, where they would find out that he was already collecting stuff, and eventually was going to be coming after something that the players had because he always wanted it and could never get it. In one case, it was one of the players themselves he wanted to collect. He figured out that one of the characters was an energy source, and then he could just strap that character to his back and suck their energy dry to power other things. So, so every time he popped up, he was fun, and they never knew what they were going to deal with each other, which gave me a chance to change him for each team when he showed up. So it was fun. But that's the thing, no matter who I have as a collector, have them use their collection, have them use the stuff they've got. It means the players aren't going to be able to threaten it as much, but it does mean that there's going to be some theme to the final encounter. You're going to have, a horde of birds or lots of, bad guys skating around on ice skates with hockey sticks or something that, makes it thematic at the end. So it's more fun. As terrifying as they could be in a superhero game, my collectors tended to be kind of one joke, kind of jokey knockoffs. In horror games, the collectors were much more disturbing.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, as we said at the beginning of the, as we said at the beginning, right? Serial killers are horror, like serial killers are collectors, and they are horror characters.
We had a horror villain who collected the skins of his victims and would then animate them at the end to fight the players. And that was just creepy as hell.
It's gross.
So it worked.
I've done my share of horror characters like that.
These were villains. So this is our look at the horror collector. Thank you. This is our look at hunters and collectors. Moving on.
We hope the next time you want to use one of them in your game, you will find some of this information to be helpful.
Now we're going to check in with the chat room one more time before we head over to the conversation corner. Oh, man.
I love I love a good serial killer who collects weird things.
Yeah, and any kind of weird collection is always fun.
Yes.
Interesting.
I mean, I can't take full credit for that. The first time I saw Silence of the Lambs, I was completely freaked out when you find out what when you find out what it's all about, you're like, oh God,
no, thank you.
This is way worse than I thought it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. Well, we're basically all up to speed here, so let's fire
roll
convo. Yeah, I can't help but think when you mentioned the time traveler collecting the forks, I'm imagining a time traveler in Star Trek going around collecting comm badges from captains.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Would be to that would be absolutely wild just to have a character show up. Actually, I don't know if you remember the TNG episode, because I don't think we watched it when we did our viewing, because it was a kind of a bottle-ish episode. But do you remember the guy who came? They thought he was from the future.
Yep.
But he was from the past, and he was there to collect technology, so he could take it back in the past and invent it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he kept telling everybody he was from the future and things were going to happen. He's like, but I can't tell you. I don't want to spoil it. Yeah, that was Max Headroom. That was Matt Frewer. Yes, that was. Thank you.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. What a, what's called? That's a fantastic episode. That has one of my favorite, because again, he tries to take Data.
Yeah.
Right. And at the end, Data says to him, I assume that your palm print will open this door, whether you are conscious or not.
Yep. That was a great scene.
That is one of Data's fuck around and find out moments.
Yep. And unfortunately, a lot of people tested that theory and they found out.
Yeah.
I don't mess with Data, man.
Don't mess with Data.
No.
All right, so as we mentioned up at the top, I'm counting down the hours until my final move. I am barely keeping up with shows, mainly just What If and Lower Decks right now. Although I did watch another episode of Kung Fu today, which is building to its climax. It's a good episode too because they got to take down a bunch of arrogant frat boys that needed to get taken to town. But it's like every day is kind of blurring into the next as I get like 8 billion steps a day and change my shirt multiple times a day because I sweat through it from all the hiking back and forth through the sun. And it's like,
oh man,
good times.
Oh boy, dude, I definitely I definitely sympathize. I was there like 2 months ago.
And then it's like, I go to pull a box out of the trunk of the car and I'm like, oh, I overloaded this box. Why did I overload this box? This is heavy box that should have been left for the movers to move, not me.
In that I was very fortunate that I have a 16-year-old son who I was like, boy, I'm like,
I say, boy, come over here and
help pick this up.
Help your old man.
Your old man is. There were only a couple times where I had to like do something super heavy by myself, and there were a couple times where I kind of pushed my bad arm to like to its limit and like had to go lay down after I was done. Yeah. Like, well, I'm gonna take a leave and I'm gonna go lay down now because my arm is furious with me for that nonsense.
Frequent breaks, cold water. Like I keep my water bottle in the refrigerator while I'm drinking out of it. So that it's nice and cold to bring my core temperature down. And
that was one of those. Get one of those Yeti ones that just stay cold for like 3 days.
One of the things I did early on when I first got the keys to my place was put a water bottle in the fridge. For the longest time, all I had in my fridge was a water bottle. Yep. Just so that when I got here, I had something cold to drink to kind of cool off, that kind of thing.
That's important.
Yes,
just this weekend when we were loading up the van, there was a point where Bob was boxing up in the house and I was standing in the van for like 5 minutes and I was sweating through my shirt just standing in the van, not exerting any effort.
Yep.
It was ridiculously hot.
It was not a good day.
Yeah, we got a lot done though. Yeah. It worked.
But I've been getting a ton done, so that's that's all good. Still a lot left to be done, but certain things I'm kind of like pushing to the back burner because they're not as important right now as getting over here to the house and cleaning out some more crap because I got to empty it out. So
it's it's honestly, I think the worst part is after the movers are through and there's just like the little bits that are left is a lot.
Yeah.
What you call it? Like you're already exhausted and then it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like there's always something else that has to get brought over.
Other than that, Phil mentioned we had iHunt on Sunday. It was a good time. Always a pleasure playing with Tony at the table because Tony will just throw his character into the deep end of the pool emotionally, mentally. Just like that character's not all right. Geo is not all right.
I think he's getting better. Like I think he's like recovering a little.
But yeah,
he's well, you know what I love that Tony brings to the game is that like he brings like the realism. Like you do the iHunt thing and he's like, wait a second, my character is definitely not okay like doing this. Like he's not like he's not just okay murdering this wizard that like is clearly a bad guy. Like there's no doubt the wizard is a bad guy. And Tony could have just written it off like that, but he's like, no, like this guy looks human. So no, I have problems with it. And now I'm gonna blow up at work because I'm freaking out.
Yep.
So I always give him credit. Like he always takes his character another notch where he could have just been like, oh no, it's it's a hunt and I've made my peace with it. But he's like, nope, I haven't.
Yep. Good times. And of course, we've got NBA this Sunday. Looking forward to that very much.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. It's on mine too.
I'm going to save it for when I get to talk about my part, but I am too.
All right, that's enough for me. Jerry?
Spent a lot of time catching up on movies I hadn't seen before, movies people told me I should watch. So I caught a couple things on Stars and Netflix and that. Also caught a weird little movie called Killing Gunther. It's written by Taron Killam from Saturday Night Live, and it is a mock documentary where basically a hitman kidnaps a documentary film crew so that they can document him and his group of assassins trying to kill off the world's best assassin. And the world's best assassin decides to take them out at the same time. And it's a comedy. And the world's best assassin turns out to be Arnold Schwarzenegger as Gunther, who's just hamming it up to no end. So it's a short, fun little movie. It's obviously done in a documentary, and some of the action scenes get interesting because like there's a point where there's a big gunfight where some of the cameramen get killed, so the cameras are stuck at odd angles during the action scenes. One camera gets kicked, so you see it spitting so they did some fun playing around with it, but it was fairly fast paced and fun. Yep. It's on, I think it's on Netflix. Got a couple other movies. I got to see what was the one that we just talked about? Titan AE. I'd never seen it before.
Oh.
So it was interesting. It was interesting to see it. So kind of
Bob loves
caught up on
that
it.
movie.
Yeah, Jerry and I had a long discussion about it because he was not as enamored with it as I was.
I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I could see why it was a thing at the time, but just it didn't. But it was not horrible. I'm not upset I saw it. It just didn't light me up. But it was definitely a Don Bluth film, and if you like Don Bluth films, it's definitely a Don Bluth film. And I don't mean that as an insult at all. I mean it just feels like a Don Bluth film. You got all the characters. If you liked playing things like Space Ace and Dragon's Lair, this movie has all of those kinds of things in it. So it was kind of neat. There was some nostalgia involved in it. Of course, watched What If and Lower Decks. Excited about playing Night Black Agent this week. But the two big things, the first is we're doing, a friend of mine that comes over, and every other week we do Lego night on Sundays. And so we've been building, we just basically hang out, eat food, and sort of watch TV and just build stuff. So I've been actually tackling some of the bigger Lego sets, the ones that take, 8, 10, 12 hours to put together. So I'm slowly getting those things put together. That's been a lot of fun to actually get some of these things I've been putting off for a long time. This time I built the French Cafe, which is really nice and will be a nice set piece for a game someday. And lastly, I've been diving in with both feet into Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. As they promised after the first 3 episodes, it really took amazing, and without giving any reveals, just there was stuff I did not see coming. And season 2 started out, and they drop in Captain Pike, and he is an incredible character right from day one. As you guys, it's no secret that I like shows with good characters in them, and Discovery has very complicated characters that are all amazing. Even the ones you hate because they're well done. And so I'm really enjoying Discovery. And like I said, once I got over my Klingon thing, I've been loving the thing all the way through. So cannot speak highly enough. And the things that a lot of people didn't like the Spore Drive, I'm like, I don't care. It's a good story. Keep going with it. I'll be happy with it.
I was good once I actually watched the episodes that explained it. Like when I heard it externally, I was like, well, this sounds dumb. And then when I watched the episode, I'm like, no, this is great.
Yep. I'm in.
No, it's fine. I'm in.
Yeah. And they're right. It's each so far is what the fact that each season is basically one great big long episode split up into 14 parts has been perfectly fine. Because knowing that they're building towards something makes it easier to take some of the slower pacing that they have to do to get some of the stories across.
Exactly.
Like, okay, we're building. They're just going to skip over some stuff and talk about this character this time and that character sometime, and
which is a bit of a thing because most Star Trek is episodic, right? Yeah. I mean, even Deep Space Nine, which had like continuing arcs, really was episodic until the last season, when the last half of the last season was basically one episode. But for the most part, you have episodes that might connect together. You have some bottle things, but that's not the case with Disco. There's no bottle episodes in Disco. Disco just like there's 14 or 15 episodes in a season, and it's just a straight flat run to the end.
And they will bring back characters you thought were dead but weren't quite sure. There will be allegiance changes. There will be reveals. I don't think there's any. I think every romance in this show is a messy romance, and
Yep.
that's wonderful. It's got some good stuff in it, and just it's a power of math, people. That line made me almost jump for joy.
Yep.
I'm telling you, I want that Tilly T-shirt.
Yep.
I just love her. I love her so much.
Yeah, she's a great
So it's
character.
fun. All right, so that's me, Phil.
Of course, I did, most of the same things you guys did. Lower Decks was fantastic. In fact, Lower Decks, without giving anything away, did a trope that I thought was hysterical. That has to do with characters returning, which I thought was hilarious, and the way they played it out was great. What If? I liked What If. I don't think I was blown away by that episode. I think it was like, in a cool kind of. I think the problem for me is. It's not a problem. The What If episode was fine. The second one is so good.
Yes.
That like this one was perfectly fine, but I was like, oh, but the second one, like it's
I want to see the sequel to what happens in this one.
Yeah.
This one was really, really good. But you end with, okay, now what?
Yeah. I'm very excited. Doctor Strange is gonna make his appearance in this week's.
With an
So that's-
interesting premise too.
Yeah, I didn't even look at anything else. I heard Doctor Strange was coming, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to watch anything else about this. I'm watching She-Ra. I'm almost done. I'm down to like the last 2 episodes of season 1. I love this show. It's adorable.
Oh, it just keeps getting better after season 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, season 1 was excellent. So if it actually gets better than season 1, I'm very excited then, because season 1's great. I have no complaints about the show. It's totally enjoyable. I like watching it. I like some of the subtle things, just some of the representation that's done without drawing any attention to itself.
Yeah.
Even just the little things like Glimmer is like, Glimmer's the thicker girl.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, there's nothing like the show doesn't pay any attention to it, right?
Yeah.
Like just this is Glimmer, this is who she is. And it's great. Like, it's just, it's
Glimmer's
fantastic.
amazing.
So yeah, I'm very happy. I'm watching it. They're going pretty quick because they're short episodes. I think when I'm done with She-Ra, I may go back and binge the X-Files. Like, I think that may be my next binge, but I got plenty of She-Ra ahead of me, so I'm doing fine. I am actually excited as well for the NBA thing. For Night's Black Agents, midweek, I had a one of those all hands day long meetings, and my technique for not falling asleep in those meetings is to kind of jot game notes while I'm in the meeting. Like, I'm still paying attention to what's going on, but like in this, in the in between parts, like, I write some stuff down. Well, I knocked out like 8 full pages of NBA notes about who and what the vampires are, which is a huge part if you're GMing Night's Black Agents. Knowing what the vampires are tells you everything about what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you about the conspiracy the players are going to find, the goals of the vampires, how the vampires work. Like, these are all things the players will get to discover through the course of the game. So I didn't have much of that until last week. And then I got it, and I got it all written down, and I was very pleased with it. Like, I finished it and I was like, this is good. Like, I can work with this. There's plenty of stuff in here. This will be interesting for the players. I'm excited. So, and then last night I came up with what the first adventure is. So I have not fully prepped it. I have to do all the prep work to get it written this week. And I have plenty of time on Friday and Saturday to do that. But I know what it is, which was kind of the big one, because it's the first episode is how do the players collide with the vampire conspiracy?
Yeah.
So I, was racking my brain about it, because you guys have a particular, based on your skill set, you basically do thefts and retrievals. Like, you extract people, you steal items, and I was like, okay, how am I going to put this together and then like have you run into the vampire conspiracy? And I got it. So I'm pleased with it. It will it is the kind of opening that should get a what the fuck and then a whole bag of clues that you can then, after that, chase down. Like there'll be just like my goal is in this first episode is to just like give you like a big old satchel full of clues that you can put up on your murder board, and then you can start deciding like, okay, we should chase this thing down, we should chase this thing down. So I'm happy. Like those are the two things I've been concerned about with the game. I've been rereading the game and it's great, but I was like, who are these vampires and how are we getting this thing started? And now that I have both those questions answered, I'm like, yes, let's get prepping, let's get playing on Sunday. Totally excited. Last thing for me before we get out of here, I did some good cooking this weekend. I made some homemade chicken teriyaki, came out great. And I made my Sunday scallion pancakes and pot stickers like I do every month. And I am here to tell you, Jerry, in case you don't know this, frozen pot stickers will air fry.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
I air fried them, and you just got to hit them with a little oil and throw them in the air fryer, flip them over, hit them with a little oil, and then air fry them again.
Okay.
They were delicious, crispy on the edges, still chewy on the sides, insides nice and hot. And the nice part was, while I was air frying those, I was able to make the scallion pancakes, so I got to actually eat faster. Because normally I make the scallion pancakes, put them in my foodie to keep warm, and then make the pot stickers in the same pan. But I was actually able to just take the pot stickers, throw them in the foodie, crank it up, hit the button, and then just make the scallion pancakes. Anyway, chef's kiss. It was so good. It is my favorite monthly brunch, and I only make it monthly so that I don't eat it every week. I like to make it a treat. I eat it like the last weekend of the month, just so that I look forward to it each week. It's been a thing I've been doing since the pandemic, and it's Senda's recipe. She gave me the recipe for it from Bon Appetit, and it's great. So that's me. Why don't we do the thing? Wrap us up. We'll get into the after show.
We would like to thank the following patrons: Chris Mead, Craig Duffy, Dan Simons, David Walker, Drew Smith, Secret Weapon of the Show, our very own Glenn Seiler from our NBA game and our iHunt game and every other game.
Good guy.
Basin game.
Yep. Jason Panella, Jason Pitt, Gene Lorbert, and Jeff Stevens. And thank you to everyone for listening tonight.
If you are free on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, not next week, but the week after, come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with the other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
If you can't make the live show, check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. And take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as They're a Super Geek, Mastering Dungeons, Bone Stone Obsidian, the FM Gamers, Panda's Talking Games, the Gnomecast, Jungle Hustle, The Lounge, Bonus Experience, and back episodes of She's Super Geek. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming in VS.
Indeed. After you have grabbed that piece, dusted it off, and put it on the shelf to admire with the rest of your collection, take a picture and then leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly via email, mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Hit us up on the Twitters. The show, the network, is at Misdirected Mark. He is Robert M. Everson. He is GM Gerrymander. I am DNA Phil.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Panda Stocking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. Django Hustle is at patreon.com/Django Hustle, and Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Mastering Dungeons, and Panda Stocking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Bamboo Lounge, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.